Hello HEMA friends and welcome to this new video. So I took some time, but finally I'm going to start my Lignitzer series. One video per play. So in this video, thanks to my girlfriend Elisa,
Hello!
we're going to analyze the Lignitzer play and give to it a number of sparring applications. Very good, let's start with the glossa itself. I will use the translation you may find on Wiktenauer, made by my friend and fellow instructor Keith Farrell. Link in the description. The first piece with the buckler. From the Oberhau. When you drive the Oberhau to the man, set your sword with the pommel inside your buckler and at your thumb, and thrust in from below up to his face, and turn against his sword and let it snap over. This goes on both sides. So, by following the glossa, the form of this action can already be represented in many different ways, depending from our footwork. Anyway, we can generally say that the action is composed by three main parts. 1. Throwing the Oberhau toward our buckler. 2. Thrusting the opponent from below. And 3. By rotating our sword in the bind, deliver some kind of blow to the upper openings. The first two actions are pretty straightforward. The third may happen in different ways and with different forms, depending from the tactical application which we are going to see right now. Now, talking about application, it is important to try and recreate some relatively realistic scenario where the opponent has specific intentions in relation to what he wants to achieve, be it a defensive or offensive goal. Not the average Oberhau thrown without any kind of goal or intention on which every counter may equally be good. That said, the first applications I am going to describe you are offensive, because the glossa, to me, seems to describe an action which takes the initiative, by starting with when you drive the Oberhau to the man. In this first case, I am using the technique to face a langot/extended weapon position which threatens me. The first part of the action is meant to set aside the opponent's sword and thrust at the opponent by keeping it under control if possible. Now, it is extremely possible that the opponent is going to parry the thrust, especially if we don't catch the correct moment in which we have to land the thrust. We have to consider that our riposte may be on its path also, so we rotate our sword in the bind to close the highest number of common ripostes lines. We intercept the sword of the opponent and we launch our cut, generally a Twerchau, toward the opponent's head, while keeping control of the opponent's arm with the buckler. If the opponent instead is sitting with the sword on the right shoulder, which is a common situation in the Lignitzer tradition plays, we may still use this action to take the initiative. We launch our Oberhau toward our buckler to align the thrust in the gap between sword and buckler of the opponent. The Oberhau may draw some attention of the opponent's buckler or not, who knows. While driving the thrust forward, we may expect how the parry of the opponent will happen, namely with some sort of cutting motion on top of our thrust. We receive that parry, we rotate in the crossing as the glossa says, and we launch our cut while keeping control of the opponent's sword, or of both the weapons, with our buckler, which is conveniently already close to the arms thanks to our initial movements. The third option is an actual feint. So instead of using the Oberhau to align the thrust only, we need to cut short by showing in some ways that we are moving forward while doing so. This feint needs to be done against a high guard, with the goal to stimulate the same cutting motion parry as before. If the feint is realistic enough, the opponent will try to parry. By using our footwork and our weapons placing, we thrust on the outside line of the opponent toward the head. If the opponent parries the thrust with the sword, we snap our cut toward a high opening. Now, this action is more risky if compared to the others. Threatening the buckler side with a feint brings many risks, but it is still a relevant application of the action. Funny enough, it is far better if executed from the left side, because it is easier to threaten that side with a believable feint. by the way, this is also glossa friendly because it says that this action, whatever it is, works on both sides. The last partial application of the action is just the first bit of it, used as a defensive action against a cut. Now, to land this action we need to be tricky. We need to expose the left elbow to the opponent by looking as we naturally forgot to keep it safe with our buckler placement. And while the opponent is going for that juicy, conveniently closer target, we close the line with the buckler and the sword and we thrust at the opponent. The action may of course continue, but it will be lesser in line with the glossa due to the fact that it is harder to parry the thrust with the sword in that situation and the buckler should do it in its place. So no bind with the sword, no rotation in the bind, etc, etc. Very good people, here we are, some applications of this form left us from Master Andre Lignitzer. Remember to not focus too much in searching for a single specific interpretation of a play. A single tool against the chaos of fighting is not that relevant. Instead, try to find more solutions in relation to it, to cover more situations. By doing so, I am pretty sure that in the end of our Lignitzer series we will have a coherent fencing system, even if based on only 6 plays. Very good people, we are at the end of this video. Remember that if you want to help this channel grow up, you may join my Patreon community. A ton of exclusive content which I made in the past 4 years is awaiting you there. Thanks for watching people and, as always, see you next time.